My name is Albert Croft, and I'm a business manager for a financial firm. I just turned 32 last month and have been married to the love of my life, Maria, for the last 8.5 years. We've got 2 boys, Danny, who is 6, and Kenny, who is 7. We live in a huge box of a house in the suburbs just outside of Atlanta. We've got a lot of friends who live in our neighborhood, and most weekends are spent going over to someone's house for either a party or barbecue. When we first got married, we lived in a place where I had a ton of friends, but Maria didn't care for most of them. They weren't quite as refined as our current ones and could care less about what kind of car you drove or how big your house was. They were a burly group that loved to party but would give you the shirt off their back if you needed it. When Maria made the decision that we needed to upgrade to, as she put it, a nicer area, we had our first big fight. Our house was only 15 minutes from where we both worked and had been a fixer-upper, so our house payments were pretty low. I'm what you call a laid-back kind of guy and couldn't care less about the finer things in life, unlike my wife who was always looking for something better. So, when Maria said we needed to move, I put up a fuss for about a week and then thought, what the hell? You see, most things really aren't worth arguing about: a car, a house, clothes. They're just material things that in the end don't mean squat. So when Maria dug in her heels, I just let it roll off my back. It just wasn't worth the energy it would take to argue with her about it. In fact, I can count on one hand the number of fights Maria and I've had over the last 8 years. That is, until last night. Maria works at an interior design studio owned by one of our neighbors. She works from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. so she can get the kids off to school in the morning and be home when they get off the bus. On the other hand, I work from 8 o'clock until 5 o'clock, depending on traffic. I usually get home about 5:45. When we lived in our last place, I was home and had a beverage in my hand by 5:15. Tuesday night there was an accident on the road, and I didn't get home until almost 6:15. I was a little stressed by the time I got to my driveway but thought, what the hell, at least I was finally home and could relax with my bride. I snuck in the back door and went upstairs to change into a pair of shorts and an old t-shirt. As I was walking down the stairs towards the kitchen, I heard Maria on the phone. "Don't worry, Peg. You know Albert, he'll go along with anything I say," I could hear Maria telling her sister. "No, he won't get mad. I think I know my husband a little better than you do. I've got it all worked out and I plan on talking to him tonight after dinner. Yes, I'll call you and tell you what he says." "Well, gotta go, girl. I've got dinner to finish. Talk to you later," Maria said, hanging up. "What do we need to talk about?" I said as I walked around the corner. "Albert, you startled me," Maria said as I came into view. "Let me ask again. What do we need to discuss?" "That has to wait until after dinner," I asked, getting a beer from the refrigerator and sitting down at the kitchen table. "Let's wait until after dinner when the boys are upstairs." "All right, what did they do this time?" I talked to them about the go-kart and not hitting golf balls in the backyard. What else could they have done since Saturday afternoon? It's not about the boys, it's us. "Well, I haven't done anything bad since grabbing your bum at Frank's Grill last Friday night, and the only reason I did that is because you looked so hot in those new jeans." "So, it must be you. What did you buy this time?" I asked, trying to add a little levity to our conversation. "I'm not talking about that. It's about how we feel about each other," she started to say. "Well, babes, you know I love you, and I know you love me. So, what's the problem?" "Albert, you know I love you," she said, holding my hands in hers, "but I'm just not sure if I'm still in love with you anymore." "What?" "I don't understand, Maria," I told her, not liking where this conversation was heading. "If you've got something to say, just spit it out." "You're the best and most thoughtful husband in the world and a great father," she said, touching the side of my cheek, "but I'm just not sure if I feel the same way about you as I did when we got married. I'm thinking about a trial separation so I can get my feelings sorted out." "Maria, I don't understand. When the hell did all this happen?" "Before or after we kissed goodbye this morning," I said. Now I'm getting more than concerned. "Where are you going with this?" "I've been thinking about it for a while but didn't want to say anything until I was sure what I wanted." "I don't understand. Where do you want to go?" I asked. "Well, I'm thinking about you moving in with your mother for a while. Since your dad died, she's been bouncing around that big house by herself. Maybe she'd like some company for a little while, Maria said, speaking like she was talking to a child. Now, I was starting to get angry but held it inside. How are you going to pay for the house and everything else if I leave? I asked, fully knowing what was coming next. Well, you'll still have to make the payments, but it won't be forever. Just until I have a chance to sort out a few things, she said in her most loving and caring voice. I stood up. No. What do you mean no? A surprised Maria replied. Maria, what the hell about no don't you understand? No, I'm not moving in with my mother, and no, I'm not leaving my house and 2 sons. If you need to leave and get your head and bum wired together, go for it. I don't want you here either if you're not in love with me anymore, as you so eloquently put it. So, since I'm such a great guy, I'll even help you pack, I said, slamming my beer down on the table and walking up the stairs to her bedroom. It shocked the heck out of Maria when I came back downstairs with an armful of clothes from her closet. Put these in your car, and I'll be down with the next load in a minute, I said, tossing them on the living room couch and running back up the stairs. When I came down with the next handful, Maria started yelling at me to stop. I thought you wanted a separation. I'm just helping you move your stuff out, that's all, I told her in a calm voice. At this point, I crossed the line from love and was moving into the hate category in my feelings for her, or as I like to now call it, the dark side. I want you to leave, Albert, she now yelled at me. That's not going to happen, Maria. This is my house, and I've done nothing to either you or the kids to warrant you kicking me out. Now, if you want to move down into the basement, I can put your stuff down there, I told her as I dumped my second armload of clothes on top of the others. This was not going as Maria had planned. Albert was supposed to tuck his tail between his legs and move out without saying a word, she said to herself. He wasn't supposed to put up a fuss. Now what the hell do I do? Let's talk about this like 2 adults, Albert. Maria, I think you've said enough. At least now I know how you really feel about me. So make up your mind. Where do you want your clothes? Because you're sure as hell not staying in my bedroom any longer, I said, trying my best to stay calm. When our sons Danny and Kenny walked through the door, they wanted to know what was going on. Mom's just moving some of her stuff, that's all. How about if we go out and get a few burgers and let her finish? I didn't have to ask twice. We were gone and back within 45 minutes with the food. However, we came back to a few extra people, 2 policemen. Evening, officers. Can I help you? I asked, getting out of the car and telling my sons to go inside. We got a call about a domestic dispute and need a word with you, the bigger one told me, keeping his hand on his gun. Look at his hand, I said. Officers, you won't need that. I explained what I had come home to. I haven't raised my voice, threatened her, nor my kids, but I told her I wasn't leaving my house. My name's on the mortgage, I pay all the bills, and unless there's a court order floating around, which I strongly doubt, I think I'm well within my rights to be here. I told my wife if she wasn't happy with me, she could move out, and I'd even help her pack. They both snickered and got a kick out of my dilemma. Maria was hot, to say the least, when the policeman told her there was nothing they could do. However, they did say they would file a report stating that I was calm and presented no danger to either my family or myself, but that Maria was ranting and raving and using profanity and talking to us about her husband. Finally, that I had only wanted to help my wife load her personal items into her car. That was all they witnessed. I thanked them, shook their hands, and they wished me good luck. Maria was now fuming that she hadn't gotten her way. Albert, why don't you just leave and make it easier on all of us? She shouted at me. Maria, that's not going to happen. So decide where you want your stuff, in the car or the basement. It's your choice. The boys and I are going to eat out on the deck, so think very carefully about what you do next, I said, grabbing the food and heading out to the deck where my boys were waiting. What's wrong with Mom? Who knows, maybe she had a bad day at work. Guys, let's give her some space. You know Mom, she'll be back to her old self in no time, I told my boys, but I didn't believe one word coming out of my mouth. We ate and then watched a special about the X Games that were going on in Atlanta. It wasn't until almost 8:30 before we finished. "Why don't you guys go upstairs and let me see what's going on with your mother?" I told them. "I'll be up later to check on you." They went upstairs, and I went looking for Maria. She was gone and had left her clothes piled on the couch where I dumped them. I went upstairs and noticed a few drawers opened and 2 of her suitcases missing. "Well, I guess that answers that," I said, sitting on the bed, wondering what was going to happen next. Hell, I left a loving wife and family at 7:15 this morning, and now at 9 o'clock tonight, I had my 2 boys but no longer had a loving wife. Life really sucks sometimes. "Mom, I need a big favor," I said as I called my mother. I gave her the short version and asked if she'd come over to see that the boys got off to school on time and to be here when they got home. Maybe Maria's hormones are just acting up. She'll probably be back as soon as she realizes what a fool she made out of herself, but I'll be over it in the morning just to make sure. I thanked my mom but said I wasn't quite as sure as she was. I was right. Maria didn't come back Wednesday or Thursday. She did call the boys Thursday afternoon to say hi to them but not to me, though I guess I was still the a-hole. By Saturday morning, I was concerned but pissed also. "You've got no one but yourself to blame," I said, starting to beat up on myself. "If you hadn't been such a milquetoast all these years, Maria never would have tried to kick you out of your own house. Now she's sulking at her parents and telling everyone what an insensitive louse I was for not considering her feelings. Screw her in this damn house," I said, looking around. "I never wanted it, and it's way too big for just the 4 of us anyway." Peggy, Maria's sister, did come over Sunday afternoon to pick up a few things for her. "Hey, Peg," I greeted her at the door. "I figured she'd send you over to get some more of her clothes. How's she doing?" "You know Maria, it's all about her. She still can't get it through her thick skull why you just didn't roll over for her and give her the house, kids, and move out," she said with a smile. "I told her you wouldn't go along with it, but she told me she knew you better than I did. Guess she was wrong. I should have kicked her to the street a long time ago, but I figured I'd keep peace in the family by not saying anything. Guess I was wrong. Any idea when she plans on coming back?" "Not a clue. She's still in the poor me stage, but Mom's ready to kick her out if she doesn't get it together. But you know Dad, his little girl can do no wrong. You want to stay for dinner? We're having chicken on the grill, baked potatoes, and corn on the cob. Let me get her stuff together, and you've got a deal," she said with a smile. The boys were happy to see Peg, and we all had a nice dinner together. She did get 2 text messages from Maria asking her where the hell she was, but she never responded back to her. We all cleaned up, and it was close to 8 o'clock before she said, "I'd better get going. Thanks for stopping by. It was nice to see a friendly face for a change. If you need anything, give me a call," I told my sister. She's screwing up a good marriage, but her friends are all telling her to stand her ground and that you'll soon come around, I told her. Wouldn't I? Right as rain, girl, but you better go before you get in more trouble than you're probably in right now. Peg gave me a big hug, a kiss on the cheek, and was out the door. Married the wrong sister, I said to myself. The next 3 weeks were hard. Mom took care of the kids, and though Maria would call the boys, she refused to talk to me. She did, however, send me 2 long emails about how bad she was feeling, that I wasn't being a supportive husband, and a whole bunch of other things. The one thing that kind of surprised me though was I was no longer invited to the neighborhood get-togethers, but Maria was. I guess they'd already taken sides. The kids were the first to notice it and kept asking when their mom was coming back home. Not sure, guys. It's really up to her. I'm not keeping her away, she's doing that all on her own, I told them. It was Saturday morning while we were food shopping that my life started to turn around. I was walking down an aisle with my 2 sons when someone grabbed me from behind and lifted me off the floor. You're so stupid, you're probably ironing her shorts now too, came a voice out of the past to mock me. If this is as high as you can lift me, you're still the out-of-shape piece of crap you've always been. What Carol sees in you, I'll never know, I said, laughing. I thought you dropped off the face of the earth. What, are you too good for us anymore now that you've got that big house? Randy asked, letting me down. I've always been too good for you, you just never realized it, I said, giving him a hug. Your boys are growing up fast. What has it been, 2.5 years? Something like that. How's Carol and the girls? Still riding rush out over me like always? How's Maria? I paused for a minute. Pretty good, I replied. That bad, huh? Hey buddy, if you're not doing anything with your new highbrow friends tonight, I'm having a little get-together and we'd love to see you guys. What time? I said, looking at the boys. Any time after 4 o'clock, and bring your own poison. Bet it's if Maria still lets you drink beer, Randy ribbed me. It's a date. Anything I can bring? Nope, just yourselves. Well, I'd better get my butt in gear or Mama will have it. See you guys later, Randy said, walking back down the aisle. Was that Uncle Randy? My two wide-eyed boys asked. Yes, that was Uncle Randy, and we better get a move on. This is one party I don't want to be late for. We hit Ree's place just after 4:30. Carol came out and gave me a big hug, and her girls grabbed my boys and headed for the backyard. Where's Maria? Carol asked. That's a whole other story, I said. Well, I'm glad you and the boys made it. Everyone will be glad to see you, Carol told me. And they were. The group treated us like we'd never left. The kids and I had the time of our lives. At the end of the night, after most of the group had left, Carol, Randy, and I sat down. They wanted to know what happened between Maria and me. All I could do was shake my head and tell them I didn't have a clue. We never fought. Hell, we never argued, I told them. Maybe that's the problem. I let her do whatever she wanted to keep peace in the family. Hell, I was getting all the sex I wanted, and I thought Maria was happy. Who knew? Probably just a woman thing, Carol said, but I told her I thought it went deeper than that. You don't tell your husband that you love him but you're not in love with him. That's a bunch of double talk. It never dawned on me that Maria might be fooling around, but right now, I wouldn't bet against it. I'm going to keep my eyes open, my mouth shut, and see how it all plays out. No more Mr. Nice Guy. From now on, it's my kids first and me second, and the hell with everyone else, especially my fair-weather neighborhood friends. Every week Peggy would come over on Sunday to get a few more of Maria's clothes. She would always stay for dinner, and I found myself kind of looking forward to her visits. I would drop off my boys over at Maria's mom's house on Saturday mornings and hope to talk to Maria, but after the first blow-up, I found it easier just to drop them off. That way, there would be no confrontations on the front lawn again. I went from anger to almost giving in before finally getting depressed. Hell, I felt like a damn alcoholic going through the 7-step program. I even tried to get answers from Maria by sending her a weekly email telling her how much I loved and missed her, but I got nowhere with her. Albert, please be patient, my love, she wrote. I just want to resolve these nagging issues so they won't crop up later on. I know it's been tough on you and the boys, but just hang in there a little while longer, she wrote. At least it gave me hope. After 3 long months, and while doing the Sunday dishes, Peggy shot a hole through my chest. Maria went out on a date last night, and it wasn't the first one, she said without looking at me. I told her she was crazy, but she went anyway. I thought you should know, she said, still avoiding my eyes. I didn't say a thing. I just stood there with a soapy washcloth in my hands while it dripped on the floor. Didn't you hear what I said? Peggy said, now looking at me. She went on a damn date. Say something, God damn it, she yelled at me. I was too stunned or shocked to say anything or even move. For the first time since Maria left, I thought about my life without her. Sure, I've been angry and ranted and raved a few times, but I always thought she'll be back and we'd be happy again. Now, for the first time, I thought that might not happen. Earth to Albert, are you alive? Didn't you hear what I just said? Peggy repeated as she now pounded on my chest. Snap out of it. Your damn wife is out there screwing around on you and all you can do is just stand there. I grabbed her hands and then put my arms around her. My eyes filled with tears as I could hear Peggy start to cry. It's not fair. You're such a nice guy and all she's doing is taking advantage of you. It's not right, she said, holding me. No, it wasn't right, I finally said, throwing the wash rag against the wall. No more. I yelled as the kids came into the room to find out what all the yelling was about. Dad, "What's going on?" they asked, and Peggy slipped on the floor. When I went to catch her, I hit my knee. "That's all," I explained to my two boys. "Remember, we've still got that movie to watch and we're waiting on you too," they said, walking back to the living room. Peggy and I sat on the couch, and my boys sat directly in front of the projection TV. I'd seen Spider-Man 3 times, and they'd seen it at least 6, as we all watched in silence. "I'm sorry," Peggy whispered to me as she held my hand. I was still in a daze and was now well into the dark side. In my mind, I was planning my next moves, not revenge just yet, but ones of self-preservation. After the movie, I chased the kids to bed and walked Peggy to the door. "You okay?" she asked. "No, but I'll live." "Call me if you need anything or just want to talk," she said, kissing me on the cheek. "You know she's an idiot, Peg," I said, walking out the door. "Call me Monday." I called in and took a vacation day. I got my kids off to school and then hit the computer. We had 2 Visa credit cards with outstanding balances. I paid off both and closed the accounts. I then went to the bank and transferred 50% of what we had left into a new account in my name only. They told me it would take 6 business days to remove my name from the existing accounts. I called the HR department where I worked and removed Maria from my life insurance policy for 401k, medical, and dental insurance. It was now 11:30 a.m. I changed the locks on the house myself, including changing the security codes on the front door and the garage door opener. Going to the mall, I canceled my cell phone plan, which cost me an extra $250 fee, and started a new plan in my name only. Wait until Maria tries to use her cell phone. That should get a rise out of her, I said with a smile, the first smile that had crossed my lips in a long time. I left the home phone number the same but put a message on the answering machine that if they wanted Maria to call her, then I gave her parents' home phone number. It was now 3:45. The kids came running into the house like always. "Guys, I need your old house keys." "I changed the locks, and here are your new keys," I said, handing them each a new key as I took their old ones and threw them in the trash. "All done," I said to myself, and it only took 8 hours to go from happily married husband to a single parent. I knew it was just a matter of time before the explosion would hit. That night, the home phone rang, and I told the kids to let the machine pick it up. "What the hell do you think you're doing, Albert Croft? My cell phone doesn't work, and neither do my credit cards. I need you to call me right now and tell me why you're acting like such a..." Maria only called me by my full name when she was really angry. It had taken me only 8 hours to push her over the edge, whereas it had taken me over 3 months to lose it. Peggy called and said she was on her way over. "Grab the kids because we're all going out to dinner." She pulled up, ran up to the door, and told us all to get our butts in gear. "What's the big hurry?" I asked. "Maria and my parents are getting ready to come over and have a heart-to-heart with you, so if you don't want to hear a bunch of bull, come with me." We ended up at Sonny's barbecue. It wasn't my favorite, but when Peggy asked where everyone wanted to go, I got outvoted 3-1. The food was good, and we were all having a good time. "You know I changed the locks, don't you?" I asked. "I figured that when I heard you canceled her credit cards, cell phone, and insurance," she told my parents. "You cleaned out the checking and savings accounts, that's when Dad got mad." I took exactly half, but only after I paid off all the credit cards she's been using for the last 3 months. That girl sure knows how to spend, I figured. But you know Dad, Lord and protector of his little girls, even when they're wrong, Peg told me. "What are you going to do now?" she asked. "Nothing," I told her. "Nothing other than putting that monstrosity of a house up for sale. I've hated that house from day one, and even if we eventually get back together again, I want that house gone. You can't sell that house without her consent, you know." "I know that, but when the for sale sign goes up, we'll be the talk of the neighborhood," I told her, smiling from ear to ear. We stayed away for almost 3 hours. However, it was still a school night and the kids needed to get to bed, so we finally headed for home. "Are you and Mom getting a divorce?" my kids asked when I put them into bed that night. We asked Mom, and she said no, but she doesn't live here anymore, kids. I can't say yes or no right now. You know your mom and I love you very much, but I don't think she wants to live with me anymore, so we'll just have to wait and see what she wants. I kissed them both goodnight, told them I loved them, and assured them it would all turn out okay. I grabbed a beer and gave one to Peggy as we sat at the kitchen table. You know you can't hide forever, don't you? Peggy asked. Don't plan on it. She knows where I live and work, so it won't be too hard for her to find me, and finally, she did. At work on Thursday, Maria came storming into my office. How dare you cancel my credit cards and cell phone, she started. And when did you change the locks on the house? Hello, Maria. My, you're looking nice. How have you been? I babbled at an astonished Maria. Albert, what the hell are you talking about? She finally asked. Just answering all the questions you should be asking after not being a part of our family for almost 4 months, that's all. Now, if you'd like to sit down and talk, that would be nice. But if you're going to yell and scream, I'm going to have to ask you to leave, because after all, this is a business office. All right, Maria said as she sat down in front of my desk. Why did you do all those things last week? Why did you start dating? Are we still married or have I missed something? I asked. It was just dinner with a friend, that's all. Did you sleep with him? No, I didn't sleep with him. It was just dinner, I told you. Are you going to sleep with him? Albert, why are you asking me all these questions? I just want to know what my timetable is, I told her. What timetable? Maria asked. Why our divorce? I told the shocked Maria. I don't want a damn divorce. Maria shouted back at me. Well, you're acting like you do, dating, ignoring your husband and kids, buying new lingerie for someone other than me, all the signs of moving on with your life without us, Maria. They still send the credit card bills to the house, so I know what you buy, just not for whom, I told her. I told you, I don't want a divorce. All I need is a little time to myself, that's all, she told me for about the 10th time, but this time I wasn't letting her off the hook. How much time, Maria? How much more time do you need? I asked. I don't know. How can I answer that when I don't know? She replied. Well, when you find out, please let me know. But it better be soon if you expect to try and save this marriage, I said, standing up. So if you don't mind, I still have a job to do, and I've got a meeting in 20 minutes. She tried to kiss me goodbye, but I turned my head. She wasn't at all happy but said nothing. That evening, Peggy came to the house, and we had a long conversation. How much longer are you going to keep this charade of a marriage up? She asked. This weekend, I told her. If Maria is not back by Saturday morning, I'm going to see a lawyer. If she doesn't know by now, she never will, I told Peg. I'm not going to say a thing to the kids because my mom is planning on taking them out of town Friday after school, so by this weekend, I'll at least have my answer. Peg seemed more than a little disappointed with my answers. We picked up the kids, and we all went home to prepare dinner. It was a quiet night between Peggy and me before she announced that she had to leave. I walked her out to her car and held her for more than a moment before she got into her car. I leaned in, gave her a peck, and she drove off. My email that night to Maria was short and to the point. If you've not moved back 100% and are ready to be my wife and mother to our kids, I'm calling it quits. Your time is up. It's decision time. Tuesday night, Maria called and said she was moving back in. She said that she'd taken off Friday and that we'd have all night to talk. I was elated but sorry at the same time. The week dragged on. Maria called me every day, and so did Peg. Peg said that Maria was very excited about coming home and that she wished us both the best. When I came home Friday night, Maria was there waiting for me, drink in hand. I grabbed her, hugged her, and it felt so weird after 4 months. We ate, we talked, and then talked some more. We both knew what was coming next as the hours ticked by. I was in bed waiting for her when she came out of the bedroom completely naked. Maria, before you come to me, I have to ask you a question. How long has the affair been going on? And please don't insult my intelligence by telling me it just happened, I told her. 6 months, Maria said, not meeting my eyes. But it's over. I broke it off a while ago, she said with a scared look on her face. So, in other words, the real reason you left was to be with him, is that right? It started out that way. That's why I needed the time alone to decide who I wanted. So you've been with him all these months, and now you expect to just waltz back into my life like nothing happened? Like I'm supposed to just say, "It's okay, honey, I'm just glad you're back, Maria?" Did you fool around with anyone else while I was gone? Maria asked. What does that have to do with anything? We're talking about you having a lover for the last 6 damn months. I just want to know how damn sanctimonious you really are, I replied. Well, Albert, unlike you, I was still sticking to my vows, I said, getting out of bed. Now that I know what a lying cheat I'm married to, I can make the hard decisions I've been putting off all these months. Albert, I came back to you. It's over. I made a huge mistake and I admit it. I'm not proud of what I've done, but I'm asking for another chance. I love you, and I'm begging you for another chance to make our family whole again. Please. What the hell was I supposed to say when she put it to me that way? No, I need to think about it, Maria. But I can't do it sleeping next to you right now. I'm too damn angry. Just tell me it wasn't one of our friends or someone I work with, I asked. It was someone I met through work, and it's over, she said for the second time. I slept in the spare room Friday and Saturday night. It was lonely, but I needed to make some hard decisions going forward. We talked all weekend. She told me to ask her any question, and she would answer them truthfully. I didn't want to know any of the details, but did ask why. It was exciting at first, and I felt like a naughty teenage girl keeping something from her parents. He paid more attention to me in 1 week than you had in the last 2 years. I just fell under his spell. But it didn't last. After a while, the newness rubbed off, and we were just screwing because it physically felt good. We both decided it wasn't worth it, and neither one of us wanted our spouses to find out. So that's the short version. I realized I'd made a mistake and wanted you back. By Sunday morning, my mind was too full of issues, and I needed a break. Dinner at her mom's house was something that had been missing all these months. She put on a huge spread, and everyone seemed to be in a good mood except her mom, Peggy, and I. As we got up to leave, her mom hugged me, put something in my pocket, and whispered for me to call her tomorrow before kissing me on the cheek. The next 2 weeks were hectic. I was still sleeping in the spare room, and the kids were happy to have their mother back with them. I took off Friday afternoon and drove home to take care of a few items I couldn't do after working hours or at night. I'd turned off my cell phone because I didn't want to be disturbed, and when I turned it back on, there were 12 messages from Maria. I took out a beer and was just about half finished when she came flying through the door, waving an envelope. What the hell is this, Albert? She shouted at me. What does it look like, Maria? Why did you have me served? I thought we were going to try again, I said. We almost were, Maria, but that was when it was just the two of us. There's no hope now for the three of us, I said to a shocked Maria as she sat in a chair. You see, I was leaning your way because of the kids and all the good times we'd had in the past, but something new came to light 2 weeks ago that put our marriage in jeopardy, I told her. How did you find out? No one knew, she replied. Does it really make a difference how I found out, Maria? So you were going to just play me along like some stupid sucker and make me believe it was mine? You really are a piece of work, you know that, Maria? It wasn't supposed to happen, I'm so sorry, Albert. I don't love him, only you. We can take care of this and then go back to the way we were, she pleaded. He even gave me enough money to take care of it so his wife doesn't find out either. She was digging herself into a deeper hole with every word that came out of her mouth. I hope the three of you will be very happy. I love you, Albert, I really do. We can get past this, and if you want, we can sell this house and buy another one and make a fresh start somewhere else. Maria, we're done. Hell, we've been done for a long time. I just didn't want to accept it for the sake of the kids. You can stay here until the house sells or you find another place to live. I plan on taking the kids with me, but you'll be able to see them whenever you want. I want nothing from you other than you out of my life, I told her. She cried the rest of the weekend, and when I picked up the kids, we all had a long heart-to-heart talk with them. It wasn't a huge surprise to them that we were splitting up, but they still weren't happy about it. After all, it was their mother. We split everything up 50/50ths, and after all our bills were paid, I still had enough to put down on a small house in a friendlier neighborhood. Maria did take care of her problem, and I did respect her wishes of not saying a word to anyone. There was only one problem. You see, Maria's mom slipped something in my jacket pocket that Sunday. I called her the next day to verify what she'd given me. I shouldn't be the one telling you this, but if I don't, you may never know the truth, she started. I found something in the guest bathroom the other morning after Maria moved out, and it took me a few days to get up the courage to give it to you. She had found a pregnancy test kit in the trash, and it showed that someone has got a bun in the oven, so to speak. Since she was the only other female in the house, and it sure as hell wasn't her, which only left Maria. I didn't want to be the one to tell you, but I thought Maria was going to try to pull a fast one on you. Remember, you didn't hear it from me, right? What, Mom? I hate to say it, Albert, she really has the common sense of a rock, but I love her dearly. Don't be a stranger, she said, hanging up. That's how I found out Maria was in a motherly way, so to speak. I guess it would have been a better story if I'd found the test kit or had seen the doctor's report, or had followed her to some sleazy motel and peeked into the windows. In the end, her own mother had ratted her out. The house I found was close to the one Maria and I had lived in all those years ago. It was also a fixer-upper and needed a whole lot of work. It had 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and a large patio, but no pool. The kids pitched in, and my new helper was a real lifesaver. You see, after the divorce became finalized, we were all sitting around, enjoying a Thanksgiving meal at Maria's mom's, when the kids spilled the beans. They were telling their mom and grandparents how the new house was coming along and how they each had their own bedrooms and bathrooms. It's so cool, Kenny, Danny said. Danny has his room, I have mine, Dad and Aunt Peggy have theirs, and we still have one left for when people stay with us, he said, beaming. Kenny, go back a little, will you? Maria asked her son. There's your room, Danny's the spare room, and who else's? She asked. Dad's and Aunt Peggy, he said like it was nothing. And how long hasn't Peggy been living with you? Maria asked. Ever since we moved into the new house, he said, munching on his dessert. Albert! Maria screamed out. I guess someone found out our little secret, I said, kissing Peg in the kitchen. You know it was just a matter of time. We never told the kids not to say anything, and Mom and Dad were bound to find out when I started to show, Peg said, rubbing her tummy. Shall we? I said, holding out my arm. Love to, Peggy replied as we walked into the dining room. It was like the shock and awe of the Gulf War. Maria was pissed beyond belief that I was now with her little sister. Her mom was happy that she was going to have another grandbaby, and her dad was relieved he didn't have to break in another son-in-law. Peg and we were just happy. I guess I originally did marry the wrong sister, but that was something I'm glad to say I rectified before it was too late. Story 2. I first met my wife, Isabella, at the train station when I was heading off to college. She was sitting on a bench, crying. I politely inquired about what happened and offered my assistance. Isabella told me that she was traveling a long distance for her studies and had a layover here for another train. At the station, her bags were stolen, containing everything, tickets, money, documents, and more. Strangely enough, she was heading to the same university as I was. I shared this with her and then offered her a ride. She was incredibly grateful and promised to repay me once we reached our destination. However, I didn't care whether she paid me back or not. I was already captivated by her large brown eyes and elegant dark hair. When she smiled, I was completely smitten. I had never experienced anything like this before. I was simply bewildered. She had me enthralled. Throughout the journey, we talked and bonded well. We joked, laughed, and Isabella was open and friendly. She radiated warmth. When we arrived, our communication continued. We often went for walks together, studied together, and spent our leisure time together. Our connection was not only one of romantic bliss but also a strong friendship. Isabella understood me completely and always provided support. I, too, made an effort to support and listen to her. I felt that from such solid foundations, a strong family would emerge. And it did. Student life was far from affluent, and post-graduation was no walk in the park. Yet, together we faced all the challenges. I worked for a large export and supply company dealing with various products. I started with a simple part-time job as a student, packaging and handling goods. However, there was an excellent career ladder here, and I eventually became a small department head. Our company supplied goods to both domestic and international markets, collaborating with numerous manufacturers. Everything was going well. The company was thriving, and my income kept growing. It was enough to support my family and save for the future. I even managed to buy a small house. Of course, it was modest, but for our family, it was splendid. We already had a 4-year-old daughter, Rachel, who was overjoyed to have her own room. I had to work hard to fix things up gradually. I took on some debt, but I wasn't afraid. I slowly paid off the debts and improved our living conditions. Isabella worked as a secretary in an investment company, assisting a small manager in the firm with paperwork. The job wasn't the best, and I didn't like the company either. I witnessed a bunch of scoundrels scraping by for a pittance, while the company was dealing with millions of dollars. Yet, employees in lower positions were paid peanuts despite their heavy workload. But Isabella continued with her job. There was nothing unusual in our family. Arguments were rare and minor, we mostly lived harmoniously. I always trusted Isabella, and I had no reason not to. So, I had no inkling of what was really happening. It all began when Isabella told me about her brother, Victor, who had left for another country when he was very young. Isabella's parents divorced, and Victor stayed with his father. He was taken abroad for a while because he couldn't stay here, and it was tough for their mother to handle 2 children. But then Victor settled in another country, received a good education, and decided to stay. Now, unexpectedly, he appeared in our lives. Isabella, I understand your joy that he's your brother, but you two never really communicated. And now he suddenly shows up in your life. Doesn't that seem strange to you? No, Drake, it doesn't seem strange to me. I know we both had it tough, and now he has the opportunity to see me. I don't see anything wrong with that. Okay, I get it. But you never mentioned that you have a brother. Why did you keep quiet all this time? I don't even know, we really never communicated, so I didn't think about him when we were together. I never thought we'd meet or talk. But Victor pleasantly surprised me. Moreover, he immediately offered me a great job. All of this sounds very strange. And now I'm even more worried. Your long-lost brother suddenly appears in your life and immediately offers you a job. What does all of this mean? It's very strange and doesn't inspire confidence. Drake, calm down. I'll explain everything now. Victor works for a major tourist company. And there's a job opening. I'll be able to earn a lot of money. I'll be traveling. Plus, I can get family vacation packages at a very low cost. We'll be able to see the whole world. Can you imagine? Isabella, I think you need to calm down. It all sounds beautiful, but I'm not sure I like this idea. And what do you mean, you'll be traveling? I understand your job isn't easy, and you're tired of it. But we have a little daughter. She constantly needs attention. Yes, she's in daycare now, but apart from that, she needs more of our time. What if she gets sick? We'll need to stay home with her. I won't be able to be in several places at once. Do you understand that? Drake, don't worry. I've thought about it. My friend, who studied with me, came 6 months ago. She's currently on maternity leave, and she adores children. Her husband is often at home too. So, they can look after Rachel if needed. She happily agreed to help if necessary. I see you've planned everything out. I'm shocked by all of this. Drake, my love. I understand that such changes are scary. But I assure you, you'll see how much better our life will be. These will be fantastic memories and experiences. We deserve this. I understand that you work a lot and earn well. You provide for us. But I also want and can contribute to our family. And I can do it. You have nothing to worry about. You'll see that everything will be fine. I just can't trust such sudden news so spontaneously. and I ask you to be more careful." Isabella greatly surprised me with this news. Everything seemed unnatural. Somehow, Isabella brought her brother to our home. Victor turned out to be a pleasant young man, and we had a good conversation. I was surprised, but I genuinely liked Victor. He shared his story well, and this guy was genuinely interesting. Following this interaction, Isabella began working at this tourist company. She could be away from home for a couple of weeks. Her friend helped me, but it was still challenging. All these changes were not particularly good. Everything changed for us. Our once close-knit and communicative family turned into something unrecognizable. We rarely saw each other, hardly communicated. When Isabella was at home, her behavior was different. It was strange, and things didn't get any better. It all felt like some kind of nightmare for me. But I tried to adapt to the new changes, hoping that things would improve in the future. After some time, I encountered Victor in the city. I saw him accidentally while going to the market for fresh fruits and vegetables. I was greatly surprised. Victor was in a dirty uniform, looking like an ordinary laborer. "Victor, hey! How are you? Changed jobs?" I greeted jokingly. "Who are you? What do you want?" Victor replied sharply. "Victor, what's going on?" "It's me, Drake. I don't know who you are. Please, leave me alone." Victor turned away from me. "Simon, are you going to work or just chatting?" the store owner shouted. "Simon? What's happening? What the hell?" I began to protest. "Sir, leave me alone. I really don't know what you want. You've mistaken me for someone else. I need to work," Victor sharply replied. I was just in shock. The charming and well-groomed young man with a promising job and a bright future turned into a worthless laborer in the market. He had a different name, and he pretended not to know me. What kind of madness was this? What was happening? Initially, I also doubted myself. But the more I looked at this guy, the more convinced I became that it was indeed him. But what was this? I didn't let it go just like that. I needed to find out what was going on. I had some free time, so I decided to follow this guy to have another conversation with him. After a while, I saw that he changed clothes and went somewhere. I followed him. The guy walked through the park, and I leisurely followed him. Then he walked along a narrow path shaded by bushes and trees. Here, I caught up with him. "Stop, Victor or Simon, whoever you are." I grabbed this guy and pressed him against a tree. "Is it you again?" "What do you want from me?" the frightened guy replied. "Don't play games. You know me. If you say again that you don't know me, I'll knock all your teeth out. Do you understand?" "Yes, I understand, sorry. Just don't hit me. I'm just a struggling actor. I take on various jobs to get by. Your wife hired me." "But why would she do that? Tell me everything you know." "I'm sorry, I don't really know anything. She called me based on an advertisement I posted online. She told me what to do and what to say, she didn't explain anything else. I'm telling the truth. I'm not her brother. I just played this role at her request. I'm sorry, I don't know anything else, don't hit me, please." The guy pleaded. I released him and remained in complete shock. What was the purpose of this entire charade? It meant it was all a lie. Probably, even her new job was a lie too. But what should I do now? I could no longer trust Isabella. Something unclear was definitely happening here. So, when Isabella arrived, I held back and didn't say anything to her. I just tried to act as usual. I observed her behavior. I decided to follow her when she was planning to go on her business trip again. At the time when Isabella left, I took a short break and I took our daughter to my parents to stay, even though they lived far away. But I didn't want to trust my daughter to her friend. I installed a special hidden program on Isabella's phone, which allowed me to know her whereabouts. And my suspicions were confirmed. My wife didn't go abroad. She didn't even leave our city. She was in a private sector. And I headed there. It was already dark. I approached some private house. I got out of the car and surveyed the area. I found a way to get into the house territory unnoticed. Trees grew densely above the fence at one point. There, I climbed over the fence. Then I headed towards the house. There was renovation on the back side of the house. Construction scaffolding stood near the wall. I climbed up to the second floor at this place. The window opening here was covered only with polyethylene film. I tore the film and got into the house. Probably, my wife was on the first floor. It was a big house. On the first floor, I saw a glass door. When I opened it, I saw a pool right inside the house. I heard splashes of water and moans. When I raised my gaze, I saw Isabella having sex with an old man. It was the director of his company, William Hatcher. An old and shameless grandpa who, without any embarrassment, was having sex with my wife right in this pool. My anger disconnected my sanity. There were no other thoughts than one, to kill these bastards. I ran to this strange couple that didn't notice my approach in the heat of passion. I grabbed Isabella by the hair and pulled this scumbag out of the water. "Drake? Let go, it hurts!" screamed this scumbag. "This is not painful yet, you sick creature," I said and threw her on the floor. "Come here, dirty old man," I shouted and pulled this scumbag out of the water. I started smashing his face in every place. Blood splattered over his wrinkled face, and he lost consciousness. "Drake, stop, please. Don't hurt me. I'm guilty, I'm terribly guilty. Forgive me for everything, for this lie and the pain I caused you. I don't know how it all started. I just got tangled up." Isabella began to whine when I approached her again. "Shut up, creature," I yelled and slapped her on the cheek. Isabella, struck on the head, collided with the railing nearby and lost consciousness as well. I found carpets in the house, wrapping these scoundrels in them. Then, I located a gate remote, opened the gates, and drove onto the premises. I no longer cared whether I would be noticed or what fate awaited me. I was simply consumed by rage. I began loading these scoundrels into the car. The intensity of anger and fury had so overwhelmed my consciousness that I failed to notice a car entering the yard behind me. Someone approached me from behind. However, I managed to regain my senses and saw the reflection of a person standing behind me in the glint on the car window. This scoundrel attempted to strike me on the head with a large wrench, but I dodged in time, causing the wrench to hit the car window, shattering it. I turned around and swiftly grabbed this scoundrel, knocking him to the ground. I commenced extracting the filth from this scoundrel. Then, in the headlights of the car from which this scoundrel emerged, I scrutinized his face. It couldn't be. It was William Hatcher. But how? This old man was already unconscious. Without dwelling on it, I tossed him into the car and drove away. I headed towards my workplace. There was a secluded spot there, and at this hour, no one was around. And I had the keys. There, I could deal with these scoundrels in peace. Upon arriving at the location and pulling these scoundrels out of the car, I couldn't believe my eyes. These two old men were entirely identical, like two peas in a pod. When these scoundrels regained consciousness, they were lying bound in wooden crates used for shipping dismantled beds abroad. In these crates, these scoundrels fit perfectly. "Awake, scoundrels," I said. "What is this?" "Where are we?" shouted one of the old men. They both started behaving insolently, not fully grasping the dire situation they were in. However, a couple more blows to their teeth brought them to their senses. They began to whine and justify themselves upon realizing who I was. Then I heard an unbelievable story, at the end of which these scoundrels started hurling angry remarks at each other. It turned out that in the pool, there was William's twin brother named Richard. This scoundrel confessed to noticing William entertaining himself with the young Isabella, and he decided to take advantage of looking exactly like William. These two old lechers were having their way with Isabella without her knowledge, promising her a golden future. William was unaware of this, leading to the quarrel between them. Isabella was in shock when she heard all of this and simply burst into tears. "You're despicable. Isabella, how could you do such a thing? You have a little daughter and a loving husband at home. You traded it all for the dubious promises of these old lechers? We didn't lack anything. We had everything. And you exchanged it all for lies and betrayal. You disgust me. I exclaimed. Yes, Drake, I am sickened by myself. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know. Please, forgive me. I was wrong. I'm guilty, just let me go. Isabella began to plead. I don't need your excuses now. You had no doubts before, you continued to revel with these repulsive old lechers. You're all vile scoundrels and deserve punishment. You know what cleanses best? Fire. Hot flames. You will burn. Disgusting creatures. I declared, as I began nailing down the lids on these crates. The scoundrels began to scream in horror and attempt to free themselves, but their efforts were futile. Agony continued to devour their sanity. I pulled the crates onto open ground and started dousing them with gasoline. The scoundrels screamed even louder at the smell of gasoline. Still, no one heard them. They writhed in their wooden coffins, unable to change anything. And I set these scoundrels on fire. Flames quickly engulfed the crates, roasting the scoundrels inside. They choked on the smoke but continued to scream, feeling the inevitability of a torturous death. However, I had no intention of killing them. I had already come to my senses, and despite the situation, I decided to simply punish them, brutally punish them, so they would remember it for the rest of their lives. When the flames began to sear these creatures, I extinguished the barbecue with a fire extinguisher, then smashed the crates. The frightened and smoky scoundrels tumbled out, greedily gulping air. I cut their ropes. Well, half-cooked pieces of meat, did you enjoy that? I hope you're thrilled. So, I'll leave you with your miserable lives. But I don't advise crossing my path again, otherwise, I'll find a way to deal with you. I won't give you any more chances. I hope you'll remember tonight for a long time. Isabella, you no longer have a daughter or a husband. Forget the way home. And now, get out of here. I won't let your charred asses into my car, you'll dirty the seats, scoundrels. Go! I shouted, and these smoky scoundrels hurried away. I understood that I could face significant problems after this. These scoundrels were rotten, and their pitiful words meant nothing. I knew that once these creatures were safe, they might seek revenge, kill me, or send me behind bars. With their money, they were capable of anything. But I didn't regret not killing them. I believed I did the right thing. I punished them well. The pain of betrayal never ceased for a moment. But I had to gather myself for the sake of my daughter. I left my home with my daughter, realizing that these scoundrels could find me there. I mentally said goodbye to my job, my house, and my entire previous life. I discreetly rented a home in another city and lived off the money I had saved. I waited for unpleasant news and visitors. But days passed, and no one sought me out or bothered me. I was afraid to be happy about it because everything could go wrong at any moment. However, fate eased my life. Later, I learned that this investment company had long been on the verge of bankruptcy. The management decided to steal the investors' money and flee abroad. Raids began at the company, but these scoundrels were nowhere to be found. Consequently, they had no business with me. But soon, the police found these scoundrels dead. They were poisoned. Isabella was also poisoned alongside them. I was shocked by this news, and I felt sorry for Isabella, despite what she had done. But it was her choice, and she paid for it with her life. Apparently, influential investors didn't allow the liars to escape and took justice into their own hands. But I decided to leave this darkness in the past. It was difficult to forget everything and start a new life. But I had no other choice. I returned home and to my job. I even got a promotion. However, balancing work and taking care of my daughter was challenging. It wasn't easy for me, but it was better than having a deceitful wife by my side. I knew it wouldn't get easier, and I wasn't expecting any help. But fate gave me a chance to be happy again. Rachel often fell ill, and we frequently visited the hospital. We started seeing a new pediatrician. She was a beautiful and young woman named Carol. She immediately understood how difficult it was for me and showed kindness. She not only prescribed a treatment plan for Rachel but also visited us at home. Rachel was very fond of Carol. And I felt very good when Carol was around. We became friends, and later our friendship turned into something more. Now we all live together in love and happiness. I cherished this second chance at a normal, happy life and rejoiced in every day.